All right, hey everybody, and welcome back to our third episode of Plot Twist. I am your host, Eliana Pires Janssen, and this week I got an episode for all those badass working moms out there. But this mom's even a little cooler than your average working mom because her job is to jump off of buildings and run through fire and get in fights. And I am talking about none other than Taylor Barefield. Here, check this out. This is the stuff that she does on her day job. And that's just a taste, y'all. So Taylor's on the show this week on Friday, and we talk about everything from the film industry and our love for this amazing, beautiful industry, but also what it's like to be a working mom, a mom in general, and all of these other intricacies that go into her journey, my journey, and the mom journey in general. So this one's goes out to all the working moms and all of our film industry friends. Stay strong, y'all. We know it's pretty tough in the industry right now, but this one's for you guys. Hello and welcome to our third episode of Plot Twist. I am your host, Eliana Pires Janssen, and I have a super exciting guest for y'all that's going to just kind of blow your mind in a lot of different ways, because not only is she an awesome mom, but she is a badass stunt performer. Taylor, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us about yourself and your favorite color.
Ooh, okay. Good morning. I am Taylor. Recently changed to Barefield.
Yes.
I got married last year, so when I met you, I was Taylor Towery, but I'm now Taylor Barefield, and my favorite color is green.
Yes, same. Oh, such a good color. You know, you're now the second guest who's gone with green, and I'm like pulling for the green support team.
Yeah. Green train.
So I'm going to jump right in. You're a mom of two kiddos. You are also a stunt performer. I'm starting at my business and I am noticing how hard it is to be a working mom. So not only you are a working mom, you are a working mom jumping off buildings and running through fire and all sorts of other crazy things. How are you balancing the two?
I don't know that I actually am.
Are we ever really?
I appreciate the assumption. So I think that this go round, so my oldest is 4.5 now, and then my youngest is 5 months old. And with the first, it was a shock of like how different life is. And there was so many hard lessons of how to navigate both worlds, and how to navigate them. I didn't want to have two totally separate lives. I didn't want those lives to just live parallel. I want them to like be able to intersect. So how can I be a working breastfeeding mom, and not just have I'm a mom at home and I am a stunt person here, and which is hard because in our business,
it's not really
being
set
a
up
mom
for that.
no, it's not. And people almost kind of like shy away as a female talking about mom life because it can kind of change how you're seen. Absolutely. And I didn't really want that. I didn't want to have me as a mom, me as a working person. I wanted to be able for those lives to coexist. And that first go round, it was a lot of challenges and learning to navigate. And this go round, it's obviously hard because I have two.
Yes.
But I do feel just so much better equipped. And so integrating life and like going back to work after this baby has been easier in some ways and harder in some ways. For sure.
Fair. Yeah. You know, it was something like what I was now talking about our industry. Obviously, we love our industry. It's something that is like no other industry. We build cities in days. We have the most amazing teamwork on a set, and it really is truly something special. But, you know, I was pretty shocked because a friend of mine, she is an actress and she was pregnant and her husband is a director. And SAG was there's no maternal leave, or there's no structure for supporting a mom. But here over in the DGA, they actually had a paternal leave. And so what, in your mind's eye, what needs to kind of change in the industry so that there could be a better use of resources? We, like I said, we build cities in days. Like, how is it that we haven't figured out a way to integrate, moms into going to their jobs as well? Like, if you could change just a couple of things to make your life easier as a working mom in the industry, kind of what would be your go-to points of what you would change?
That's hard.
Yeah. Asking the hard-hitting questions.
It's a loaded question, right?
Right.
So I think that depending on what role you play within this industry, obviously stunts is a little bit different in how I'm going to answer this, but let's even just say from like people in my union, like actresses, I think that actresses, there should be support during pregnancy. And I think that that's where it gets hard, because it's like, are you able to work during that time, or are you taking off?
Right.
And for each person that looks different, obviously. Are you getting a role where somebody is pregnant in? Are you,
Fair.
or are for the first few months, do you not look pregnant but you feel pregnant? Like, should you have to work through that? Should you be able to get support through that? So, navigating that as an actor and a stunt person is difficult, just because you are in a performing role. And then obviously with stunts, there's safety and everything.
Yes.
So that's a little bit different. But just as in our industry, as in general, I would like to see more support for women during pregnancy, and support of, how much they are not able to work. And because for each role that's different. But even so, I had a really awesome second AD one time who didn't tell anybody she was pregnant until she was like 6 or 7 months pregnant, I want to say.
Wow.
And that is a grueling position to be in.
Yes.
And she just kind of suffered silently, because she wanted to continue doing her job. And for me, it's hard, because I don't want to automatically say that women have to take off during pregnancy, because we're amazing and we don't have to. However, the expectation of being able to still work that 16-hour day at that level, it just may not be feasible, especially, depending on how pregnant you get. So being able to take time off with financial support during pregnancy is something that I would really like to see for women in this space, just because we're not like a 9-to-5 job where you can maintain, right? Like,
not even close.
When you're 6 months pregnant, like going to work for a 16-hour workday where you barely get to sit and you're out in elements and you're not sitting in an office. So it's just not the same. And not to say that we can't do it. However, there are times where I just think having the financial support to maybe
be able to take that
needed.
Right. And the also, I think the emotional support of, there's that, like, something that I was like absolutely terrified of. I was like, oh, well, if I leave the industry, I'm going to lose all my contacts. I'm not going to be able to get back in. And
out of sight, out of mind. Right?
Exactly. Yes. And the industry moves at such a light speed. It's just, like I said, it's equal parts magnificent and equal parts terrifying at the same time. And
I think it's why it's exciting, right?
Yes. And everybody's like, wait, I remember there was a movie I was doing, and we needed extras, and finally I convinced my now husband, at the time it was just my boyfriend, I was like, just come see what it's about. I promise, like, a film set is so great. We have a snack table 24/7. Like, you'll love it. It will be great.
Whatever.
Now, granted, it was an overnight. So for those not in the movie industry, an overnight is when we film basically like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. because we need to shoot in the night, because sometimes, things take place at night in movies. And so I brought him in, and, typical wait for 3 hours and then go. And we shoot this overnight. It was also the last night of shooting. It was on the standoff at Sparrow Creek. So, we got the last shot. We're popping champagne. Everyone's all excited. It's the last time. Yep. Great, great. We
He's
get
like,
in the
what
car.
is happening right now?
We get in the car to travel home, and he goes, I'm never doing that again. Like, that was the worst thing I've ever done. He's like, there were mosquitoes out there. Like, we were sitting outside. I was tired. And then all of a sudden, people are drinking champagne at like 7 a.m. And I was just like, it really isn't for everybody.
Everyone. It's not. It's
not.
We're a special kind of something, right?
Yes, absolutely. So now I know the answer to this, but obviously our viewers do not. But getting into stunts. So you were kind of grandfathered in, if you will, because your whole family is in the stunt world. So tell me about that time that you made that full decision to kind of follow in the family footsteps and become the stunt performer.
Sure. So just a little background on like me and my life and my family. My dad has been in the business since forever and a year. He's now 65 years old. So it's been a long, beautiful career for him in the business. And growing up, I was a gymnast at a high level. I was
very cool.
Like a level 10 gymnast whenever I stopped doing gymnastics. And everybody just kind of assumed with my sport and with what my dad did that, oh yeah, like that's what you're going to do, right? And as the, typical teenage girl or preteen girl, I was like, oh, that's what you assume I'm going to do? Absolutely not.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was like, nope, that's what my parents did. My mom did stunts for years. And I was just like, yeah, that was their thing. Like, no, thank you. I don't want your assumption about me. Thank you so much.
Yep.
My brother was actually very different. He started going to work with my dad from a very young age and kind of shadowing him, and is just kind of knew that was going to be his path. And my story was different. So I graduated from high school. I went to college, and while I was still in school, I started working with my dad a little bit. And it was more just a like, hey, Taylor, because I had grown up on sets. Like I knew the deal. Like I had been a part of it. I had been, my dad would put up things in our yard. Like I would be on a wire from a young age, right? Like we did all of the things. And I think his plan all along was to like push that needle. And so then whenever I was still in college, he was like, well, come work with me on this. Well, come do this. I need somebody who can flip here, or, whatever the case. And it really only took a handful of jobs to have
get you reeled in.
Very humble, a piece of like humbling pie or whatever the saying is of, oh, I'm absolutely doing this. And there's just something about it. I don't know whether you want to say it's in my blood or what, that it was just undeniable that, okay,
that was it.
This is what
that was it.
Definitely. So that's, it took a lot of me resisting and then just giving in and being like, oh no, I do love this.
Yeah, it's pretty, if I was a little bit more coordinated, I think it would be like, but I trip over my own feet. So probably not the best position for me. But talk about kind of what was your scariest stunt that you like. It doesn't have to be, not a stunt gone wrong or anything like that, but something that got your heart going. And then talk about your first big, whether it's a fire or a jump or something like that, kind of that first big one. And then the kind of the scariest one that kind of got your heart going a little bit.
Sure. I think a really good stunt to actually answer both of those, like is one and the same, is the first time I crashed a car. I was driving a van, and basically I was crashing through two other cars, and I was like trying to like a getaway kind of situation. And I think there was a two-part fold of why it got my heart, really racing, and it was a little bit scary. One, it was the first time I had crashed a car. So, I was learning a lot about, like the speed I needed to go, what safety precautions we were going to take, how the car was set up to make it happen, what gear I was wearing, and so there's a lot that goes into it. And although it felt very like planned, there is
Right.
still that like, wow, we're taking, there's a lot to this, and a
Yeah.
lot needs to go right. So that was kind of scary. But part two is that I was actually working for my dad, and that was also very scary,
Yes.
just because of the pressure to do well and perform well. So I think that was probably like the first big stunt that I was also like, okay,
Ooh.
this needs to go well. There's a lot
Right.
of things that need to go right for this
Right.
to all like go right.
Yep.
And not only did I want to get it right for me, but also there's a lot of pressure of my dad
Yep.
was very, very hard on me and my brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so that pressure was high.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something that, I mean, God, like you said, everything has to go right. And, having that discipline and that hardness kind of drilled into you, I'm sure is helpful in equal parts, to kind of be like, okay, yeah, we have to check the car. We have to make sure that the car hits at this angle so that it doesn't have like some crazy response. I mean, you hear stories all the time. There was just that unfortunate rollover in the ambulance when they were just supposed to be doing a simple pit maneuver. And it's a crazy world, and everybody, it's also what I always tell people is like, the film industry is one of the only sets that I could go look on the call sheet. And for those who don't know, the call sheet's laying out what we're doing that day. And I could look at the call sheet. Oh, we're blowing up a van. Cool. I do not even look into the special effects guys. I just know that they know what they're doing, that we trust them, that they're good, that we'll be safe. It's this very high level of trust that people are there. They know how to do the job. They're not going to endanger the rest of the crew. But also, even when we do everything right, something can go wrong. Now, your kiddo is 4, so
Yeah.
he's starting to kind of, be more of a human, if you will.
Yes.
So does he kind of really understand what you do for a living? Has he ever really kind of expressed an interest in like, oh wow, mommy's doing that, I should jump off the table? Like,
Yeah.
how is that
So
worked into your personal life?
I think he understands as much as he can. If you ask him like what I do, or like when mommy's going to work, oh, she's going here to work on a movie, or my husband just left to go to Budapest, and he's like, yep, Ken's working in Budapest on a movie, and it's a TV show, but that's
Right,
his lingo.
right.
And he has seen some videos of me, like my stunt reel and like a previs video that I've like
Mm-hmm.
from work. And I think the thing that he thinks is most exciting, and I think this is every 4-year-old boy, is like fighting the bad guys. So anytime there's
Oh,
like fighting or something like that, he's like super into it.
cute.
And right now he's recently just started being like, do you want to play cops and robbers, or do you want to play soldiers? And so I kind of see that like he wants to run and gun and like
Yeah,
fight and
yeah. Very
play
cool.
these like
Yep.
creative games that are action based. um and so that's really fun.
Very cool. And so, also, another super exciting thing is that just recently the Oscars and like the awards committees have started kind of, it's now its own category, correct? Is it the best stunt performer, or is it the best stunt coordinator? What exactly is
I
it?
don't know what it is actually going to be. There has been talks and like petitions and for
Mm-hmm.
years of like um getting stunts a category, and whether that is
Yeah.
stunt coordination, whether that is the term that a lot of us are using these days are like action design.
Oh, I
So
love
instead of just
that.
instead of
Yeah.
just being a stunt coordinator, you are an action designer, right?
Yeah.
And then a lot of times the second unit director will take that role as well,
Mm-hmm.
action designer. But what the actual category is hard. Is it the best stunt? is it the best stunt team? Is it the
Team.
best stunt coordinator?
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to look at it, and I think that that's a part of why there maybe hasn't been anything, because what is it supposed to be?
Right.
And there's a lot of opinions and like outlooks on whether a stunt person likes that.
Right.
The old school thinking of is that we are the unseen, unheard of. You kind of you come in to set, you do the action, and then you like fade to black. Like what's it like back behind the bushes?
You guys are just ninjas, is really what you guys are.
You just come in and you're like, okay, I do it, and I'm quiet, and I just like, okay, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and hide now, whatever. And so there is a little bit of like, there's some people that still have that mentality of like, we don't need the recognition. That's not why we are stunt people. We are some people to come in and quietly perform and then not get the recognition. And then there's also a camp of thought where if there is a like best stunt, does that push are we pushing the limits then of safety?
Very true.
Which is a solid question, right? Like I think it's really important and great that we are having so many conversations now, especially in film, with things that have gone wrong, even just with crew and
yes.
We learned a lot of lessons, and so there's a lot more conversations and open conversations about safety precautions, which I think is awesome. But I think that also raises the question, like, if we are putting so much pressure on having the biggest stunt, how are we also going to just remain safety focused?
Yeah,
so
we don't need every movie to be a Michael Bay movie.
yeah. But I do love that there is talk to recognize the hard work of our department and of our leaders and of our people. So I think that that's wonderful. How that will actually play out and what that like will actually look like, I'm not sure. But I do think it is a fun and exciting thing to have the recognition for our hard work, but also like the creative aspect of like action design.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense too. And, it's one thing that like I struggled with. Like my biggest pet peeve as a still photographer was when these huge studios release these beautiful posters, these beautiful stills, nowhere to be found is photo credit. And like, I remember the first time I got like a quarter page picture in the LA Times. That I grew up in LA, I would always like cut out cool movie posters. Dream. Yeah, it was beautiful. And I looked down to the photo credit, and it is the distribution company or the company putting out the film, and I was just like, oh, okay. And so of course, and so right. And so for the longest time, that was kind of my thing. I was like, studios really got to do like photo credit. And then I talked to someone named Hopper Stone, who he's one of the best still photographers in the game. And he's like, it's not what we do it for. We're, still photographers we're kind of in that same world. We're supposed to be invisible, we crawl into the corners like 90% of the time. You don't even see us in a corner, and and I think he had it right. And it's funny too, because now I'm seeing newer still photographers come up, and they're having that same battle, and I just kind of chuckle because I was like, yeah, that was me. And it is frustration. There's like always that tiny tinge of frustration when it's like your work is getting like, you see everyone's like, wow, this is amazing. This is great. This is great. This is great. And you're just sitting there with your NDA like,
yeah. It's hard. I think one of the reasons that it is so hard is because, like you said, like we are so passionate about this industry, and to be able to make a career out of it, you have to have heart and soul and passion in. And so it's not necessarily about that you need your name shouted from the rooftops, right? Like we don't need this huge recognition, but there is something about like putting so much of yourself into your work that you do want to feel seen. And I think, like that's just humans in life, right? Like we just want to feel seen. And in our industry, there are so many people and so many pieces of the puzzle
Yeah.
that are behind the scenes that, as crew, we just, we don't
Yeah.
need to be the stars. We
Yeah.
don't need to be the number one, but we all just want to feel seen
Right.
and appreciated, right? Because we
Yeah.
all work so
So
hard,
hard.
so hard,
Oh
so it would,
gosh.
you're like, man, I love what I do. I'm thankful for the work and
Yeah.
never complaining. But it would be nice if somebody was just like, hey, that was your picture and that was really cool, you know?
Yep. Yep.
So I
Exactly.
get that. It's
Exactly.
just your heart. That
Yeah.
is your heart.
Exactly. And the other thing that is just so amazing about the film industry too is, we go to these insane locations like some tundra in Antarctica or some crap, and you're there with these, depending on the production size, anywhere from 75 to 200 to 500 people, but you are in this like insane community. And right now our community's, it's struggling. Let's be honest. We have a couple things against us. We went through COVID. A lot of people were devastated by that. And then the strike. And when the strike came, it's for a very legitimate reason, but it's still slow rolling to come back out. How have you kind of found your support? Because by nature, when we're together, and then you go to the next job and you might not see those coworkers or crew members for another year or two. How are you finding the support? Because by nature, when we're on set, it's very close. You're close quarters. You see your people. You personally, since you're a stunt performer, have to go through hair, makeup, wardrobe. You kind of touch every single department. How were you finding the support during those times and kind of lags when our industry was kind of at a standstill?
For sure. Um, COVID was really hard. COVID was really hard for
Yeah.
everyone,
Yeah.
obviously, in a lot of industries. But for me and a lot of my friends that are in the industry, um, it was a hard pill to swallow to be able to be like, without my job, what am I?
Yeah.
What do I have?
Yep.
What do I do? And so that community, that loss of community, that loss
Mm-hmm.
of like feeling like you had a place was harsh. I think it was harsh for a lot of people. Thankfully, during COVID, I had a young baby. And so
Ah,
I was
that's
able
true.
to kind of take that as like the maternity leave that I would have never taken
Yep.
before. And I was able to kind of like put my focus into that.
Yeah.
But I still really struggled with, and as a mom, you can relate to this. I'm thankful that I had that to be able to like put my focus into, but also it was so challenging to then be
Mm-hmm.
saying, oh, I thought that I was going to be a working mom by this point. I
Right.
thought that I was going to be, and now there's like this identity question of like, am I
Yes.
just a mom now?
Yes.
And because my job is taken from me, and there's so much
Mm-hmm.
of my identity was in my job, and
Yep.
so that was really hard. But
Yep.
I'm glad that I had the baby to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also during strike, I was lucky again that it timed out that I was pregnant during that time.
that's that's wild and incredibly lucky.
Crazy, super, super
Oh
crazy.
wow.
And so I was able to like really be able to take that time, and not that I would ever want anybody else to not be working, but there was this kind of like pressure relieved knowing that I wasn't missing out.
Right. Yeah.
Because as a stunt person, out of sight, out of mind, we talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's this like almost like guilt pressure, like I'm
Yes.
not working, everyone else is
Mm-hmm.
working, I'm going to be forgotten.
Yep.
And even though the strike was horrible and I didn't want other people not to be working, there was something about being like, okay, I'm not working right now, but
But
neither is anybody
neither.
else,
Right.
and
We're at
I'm
least
not
in it
like
together.
missing out. Yeah, I'm
Right.
not like missing out. So I was kind of in a unique situation in both of those. And then also my husband, he had, not too long before the strike started, he had just come back from a long job and out of the
Oh
country.
wow.
And so it was nice to be able to use some of that downtime to really just have time together and
Right.
like prepare for the baby and everything like
Yep.
that. So.
I gotta say, when I found out I was pregnant, she wasn't necessarily planned. And I had that same kind of identity crisis because, you know, we all love the industry, but it is damn hard to get into, to stay in, to be at the top of your game, to continue to get those callbacks. And I found out I was pregnant, and it was a hard pill to swallow because it basically felt like the last 10 years of my life were about to go out the window. Because I knew fundamentally, just because of my pregnancy, you know, I was puking every single day. Yay. I knew, right? I knew I wasn't going to be able to work. And then I also knew that breastfeeding wasn't an option on sets. And honestly, I gained so much pregnancy weight that my joints, I highly doubt I could even stand on my feet for 16 hours. And so it's like and it was a hell of a lot easier when Riley got here. Cause like, you know, when she's in theory, just in your belly, it's a lot kind of harder to really have that feeling of being a mom yet. And it just feels like you're giving up what you worked so hard for. Now, fast forward to when I gave birth and I'm like, oh, screw the film industry. This baby's the coolest thing ever. Like, this is so much fun. I love it. It's great. And, you know, that was just like that identity of being a mom, but being in the industry, but also having that like, okay, but can I work? Is it like, you know, you see everybody going on like right now in Texas, like we mentioned, is, you know, there's a lot of union stuff happening right now. We have the Lioness, we have the Yellowstone, we have all of these union shows coming down here. And my daughter's about to turn 2 in September. And I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, well, now maybe I could get back into it. But it's such a alluring world. And, you know, it's such a magnificent one. But it also at the same time, you're like kind of leveling out like how magnificent it is to be a mom. Like watching my daughter have her, you know, her words are flying out of her mouth now. Like she could almost say anything we can ask her to say. And it's just this magnificent thing to watch. And it's hard because it's like, okay, well, if I decide that I do want to go back and start taking at least just some gallery jobs, which is like a day player type of role, am I, you know, am I allowed to do that? And I'm sitting there thinking like, am I allowed? Of course I'm allowed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like this
the questions that you ask yourself and then you're like, did I just ask that? It's funny. The conversations we have with ourselves as a mom, you're like, if somebody heard me and my thoughts right now, they would think I'm crazy.
Exactly.
Am I? I kind of am.
Well, I found out too, and this is something I didn't know, and my husband is keenly aware of. You know, I didn't even know that you could still kind of have that postpartum anxiety past, you know, when you would consider postpartum to be done. You know, I still in the back of my head, I'm just like, well, okay, we need to get a new car. And I'm like, on websites I've never been on, like looking up safety ratings of like side impacts and how many degrees the car door came in. And I was like kind of spinning my wheels a little bit. And then, you know, I started talking to that same friend who's that actress who was pregnant. She's like, oh, so you still have your postpartum anxiety? And I was like, wait.
Oh, is that what that is?
That's what that is? And she's like, yeah,
you're just like, oh, there's a name.
Yeah, and you know, it was just finding out that that's like completely natural, and that's usually what keeps babies alive for a while. So it's not a bad thing, but you just like kind of take notice of like, okay, yeah, maybe is it a realistic thing? Like, obviously, yes, driving in Texas is crazy. You want the safest car. Do you need to look at how far and the degree of the angle of the door coming into on a side impact on every single car that you go look at? Probably not. You know? And so, but it's this fascinating role being a mom, but also being a working mom. And God, I have so much respect for you because, you know, not only are you a working mom, you also have to stay physically fit, which means you're working out. You have to go through hair, makeup, change your hair color, or put on a wig and go to work. But, you know, it's an amazing thing that you do. And to kind of wrap it up, last question, if there was kind of a world where the film industry didn't exist anymore, or, I mean, for you, you're a little bit lucky with Stunts being somebody that like, oh, if you look like the character, you look like the character. If you're good at your job, you're good at your job. And if they need you in Budapest, you could go to Budapest. But if there's a world where, you know, AI takes over and they could say, hey, make a movie with Hugh Dancy dancing on stairs, and all of a sudden we're out of a job, what would you be doing with your life? What career would you kind of subvert into?
Oh, it's such a good question. And I think that there's a couple different like avenues that I have thought that, you know, I would take. Um, so in college, I studied kinesiology, which is the study
Oh,
of the
very cool.
movement of the body.
Very cool.
And obviously, just like with my job and having to stay like physically active, like it's something that I'm super passionate about. But I'm also super passionate about holistic living and
Very cool.
just like supporting our bodies naturally and looking at our body and our life as a big picture versus
Yes.
you know like fixing small band-aids. So I kind of have these two passions, and I love to integrate both of them into my life already. And I think that there is a world where I would love to help people live a more healthy
Lifestyle. Yeah.
And I don't just mean like you know, get in the gym, or I don't just mean eat a certain way. I just mean truly like a big overall picture of like, you know, how can we make your quality of life higher through healthier habits? And I think that there's so much in this world that is like, do this, don't do this. There's these hard lines. And there's so many different hints of thought. And there's this big question of like, is this healthy? Is this healthy? Well, this person says do this, and this person says do this. And for most of us, I feel, or like most people that I know in this life, we don't want extremes. We don't want like, we just want to feel good, and we just want to be able to play with our kids and just have that quality of life. And I think there is some middle ground of like, okay, cool. How can we have some sustainable, healthy habits in our life that achieve that, right? And that probably looks different for everybody, but being able to help somebody find what that looks like for them.
And you helped me too when my daughter had her hip dysplasia surgery. They were wanting to send her home with Valium, Oxy, all of these different pain meds, and it's just something that I wasn't comfortable. So I reached out to you and I just asked, I was like, hey, I know that you're into this. Is there something that is a little bit less on the, you know, scary factor of medication? And it's little things like that that can really make such a difference. And so just broadening that out to your whole entire life of like, okay, if just your simple go-to, like if you have a headache, is Tylenol every single time versus something else. It's like these little small changes that will, because, you know, everybody knows that at a certain point, if you have enough Tylenol in your life, your kidney's not too happy, but there are other things that can help it in other ways. But no, that's really cool. And I could totally see that, you know, being something that you would be great at.
Well, thank you. I think also too, whenever it comes to like, I love when people ask, because there is something about community and being able to say, I may not have all the answers, but I might have a lot of the wrong answers. I might be able to say, you know what? I haven't found anything that works perfectly for that, but I did try these 3 other things and they definitely didn't work. So, you know, just being able to share, it's like talking to any mom friend, you know what I mean? And I can be able to say, hey, listen, I don't have the answers, but I can tell you what I did wrong. I can tell you what definitely doesn't work. And in the health space, you know, being able to like find community, or, you know, there's so many crap products out there that if somebody can just like help navigate, like, hey, this was my experience with this was my experience with this, and like we can connect and say like, this might really help your daughter. Awesome. Like, it worked in my household. Great. Cool. And then you have more of like
information to make informed decisions.
Genuine. Exactly.
And you're not finding some influencer who's like, wow, look at this. It's like real people. It's like, I mean, a lot of people, just from a marketing aspect, shop on social media today. And the way I do it is I just go through the comments. Don't trust the content that they're actually putting out. You go through the comments. And when you go through the comments of like, oh God, I tried this for 6 months and it did absolutely nothing. Or like, I tried this for a week and it already was helping. And like that sense of community and real people saying what worked for them, what didn't work for them is just one of those things that community is good for a great amount of things, and that is definitely one of them.
I know social media shopping and like community of that is like such a wild thing that we're living in now.
I know. Oh man, and like I must say, having my clients in doing that social media marketing world, I honestly feel like I'm more of a psychology like profession than I am like a marketing profession, because you're literally just dealing with the psychology of a human and what they like, what they don't like, trying to be authentic in your storytelling and not trying to, because, we're in an age that people can see that from a mile away now. They don't want to buy a product from somebody who is, you could tell something's not right. They want authenticity. And that echoes kind of across every platform at this point, because nobody wants to watch a movie about, well, I say that, but then we have shows like Meet the Kardashians. So actually, you know what? I'm just going to walk that one back.
Really?
Backpedal. Because that we have Meet the Kardashians. So, no shade to them and their crew and their friends, but, that is something that is a high consumption, and we'll just leave that
we
one
want
there.
Real, though. I think we do crave authenticity, and we do crave real. And I think there is a reason, just to kind of like circle back and tie in, but like whenever we talked about like AI and, a lot of people that, at least that I talk to, this might be a different experience for everybody, but like whenever we watch movies now, when it relates to stunts, if there's a film that just uses like an abundance of CGI versus having like real action, you feel it and you're like, that kind of looked real, but like I know that it's not real. My brain knows that it's not real. And there is this like disconnect of like, that just didn't really like sit right with us, because we want real, right?
Yeah. And, that was what I was just talking. We were watching House of Dragons, and I'm like, I'm okay with CGI for things that like are unable to be shot real. Obviously no one's going to get a dragon. Do we need CGI for a dragon? Absolutely. But do we need CGI for a like weird action sequence flyover situation? Like, no, just practical. I was raised in that practical world. I love practical effects, all of that. Yeah. But I think you're absolutely right that it is, our eyes, we've seen kind of a downgrading also of CGI. I feel like it's become so common that it's almost like Illustrator versus Canva. Canva is great and it has its merits, but also you can tell when a design is designed in Illustrator and a design is designed on Canva. And so it's almost become almost too accessible. So we're starting to see things and we're just like, that just doesn't look good. It doesn't look right. And it's like you put up something like She-Hulk versus Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was made, it's almost been 15 plus years ago. And their CGI, and if you compare it to The Hobbit, their CGI is 10 times better, 10 times more detailed, 10 times more like
my
real.
Husband and I we just rewatched Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one. And that was like the first, that was just the pinnacle, right? Of big Hollywood movies. And we watched the first and the second. I think he watched the third without me, but anyways, and we're watching it and you're like, why does this CGI look so much better than a lot of what we're seeing today? And I think what you're saying is it's today it's overused a little bit. And so, and it is a little too accessible, right? So, and I obviously I think there's a place for it. And there's amazing CGI today. I just mean that, there are pieces that just do better practical, and what we perceive when we watch it as like a viewer, it's like having prosthetics versus just all being CGI. Like, exactly. And there's a world where we can marry it, right? Like somebody's going to wear prosthetics and they're
Mm-hmm.
going to have practical makeup, and they're going to
Yep.
add practical pieces to it, and then
Yep.
go in and like add a little zhuzh, a little,
Yes,
a little
exactly.
spice with the CGI.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I
It
don't know.
needs to be added as seasoning, not as the main
Yes.
course, in my opinion.
There it is. There it is.
Well, I've taken up a bunch of your time, and I am so grateful for you coming on. And I must say, I do miss you and your brother, and I am looking forward to when I can see you guys again, whether on set, off set. But you are truly a force and an amazing woman and an amazing mom and an amazing stunt performer. But thank you so much for coming on, and go have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Awesome. Bye, Taylor.
Bye.